We were the first ones in the world to develop a technology called a accelerometer to do long-range distance measurement, which is very important if you're doing, a surveying and that type of work. Okay. So we developed the first in the world, a camera that allows inspectors to monitor these power transmission lines during the day. Up until then, the only way you could do that was to do the inspection at night.
Hello, my name is Simnikiwe Mzekandaba. Welcome to this ITWeb on the Road episode. Today we are at CSIR. The CSIR recently celebrated their 80th birthday, which was on the 5th of October. So I am joined for this episode by Dr. Thulani Dlamini, who is the CEO at the CSIR. The CEO, joins us. Talk to us more about what has the CSIR been up to for the past 80 years, some of the technological innovations that have come out of the CSIR, and what's in store for the future. Dr. Thulani, hello, how are you?
No, thank you very much. I'm very well, thank you. 80 years is a very long time, so I might not be able to do justice. But nonetheless, the CSIR was established in 1945 through an act of parliament. It was created by the state, particularly to support industrial development within South Africa. You can imagine this was during the end, of the Second World War, and there was a lot of devastation that had taken place, across the world, including in South Africa, because of the war. So it wasn't just South Africa, but there were also other countries who had similar ideas to say, how can we use science, technology, and innovation to drive economic development, to drive industrialization, to drive recovery that was needed across the world because of the devastation that had happened. So the CSIR was created under those conditions, to support industrialization within South Africa. And the mandate of the CSIR, which remains, today, was that the CSIR undertakes directed research and technological innovation to foster industrial development as well as the creation of a capable state. So it's not about supporting industry, but also to support government to deliver services that the citizens of this country require. And that ultimately everything that we do as a CSIR ought to contribute to improving the quality of lives of the people of this country. So it's a very tall order that was placed on the CSIR. It's still relevant even today. That's what we try to do with the work that we do within the organization. So there are many significant technological advancements that the CSIR has produced for South Africa. Right from the time that we were established in 1945, in the 40s, through the work that we were doing in the National Telecommunications Laboratory here at the CSIR. We developed radar technologies. And the work that we did then, was served as a foundation for the creation of the electronics industry in South Africa. And it was built on the work that was carried here at the CSIR. And if I move forward, the missiles industry that you see in South Africa was spun out of the work being done here, through the creation of a company called Kentron, which of course then became part of the Denel family. We did work in very interesting areas such as long-range distance measurement. We were the first ones in the world to develop a technology called a accelerometer to do long-range distance measurement, which is very important if you're doing, a surveying and that type of work. Okay. And in fact, South Africa enjoyed a leading position across the world for over 25 years through the work that was done here, in this particular area of research and innovation. The materials that are used today in the lithium-ion batteries that go into most of the portable devices that we now use, cell phones and others, the chemistry behind that came out of here, of the CSIR in the 80s. If you look at, for instance, something called accelerated pavement testing, when you're developing a new road and introducing a new material, in the 60s, we developed a technology that allows one, to do quick testing of the durability of the materials that are used in the road construction. Because a road ought to last you between 20 and 40 years. Now, if you're introducing something new, how do you know at the time that you introduce that material that it will last for the duration of the road? So we develop a technology that allows one, in a very short period of time, 3 to 6 months, to get data and knowledge that is representative of the performance of the road over a period of 40 years. So you can imagine the innovation that went into that. This technology now, we've licensed it to an American company. In fact, one of our major clients from the use of this technology is the state of California, as well as the U.S. Department of Defense. South Africa has generated over 250 million rands from the license royalty income that we've generated from this technology. So there are many, many examples. For instance, recently, I can talk about, the smart cards that we use now for identification. Okay. The security features and the technological features behind the smart card were developed here at the CSIR, working with our Department of Home Affairs, to enable then the department to go and procure. You need to develop the specification for the card. So we did all of that. In fact, it's one of the safest smart cards that you can get in the world today. In energy, for instance, there's a technology that is used to monitor the integrity of high voltage power transmission lines, because they tend to undergo, there's insulation which is used, in these transmission lines, which degrades over time. And you need to monitor that so that you don't reach a point of failure. So we developed the first in the world, a camera that allows inspectors to monitor these power transmission lines during the day. Up until then, the only way you could do that was to do the inspection at night, because during the day you've got interference from the radiation coming out of the sun. So we developed a camera, and we've commercialized that with a partner. And this company now, which manufactures this camera, which is based here in Pretoria, has over 50% of the global market share in these technologies. I mean, we sell these cameras now to the like of NASA, for instance, Alstom, and many other, international companies that are involved in energy make use of this camera system. So there are many, many innovations, and most of them first in the world that have come out of the CSIR. During COVID, for instance, one of the problems that we faced as a country was a shortage of ventilators. That most ventilators that we had were in the private sector hospitals. There were not enough ventilators in the public sector hospitals. Working with our partners in the National System of Innovation, we manufactured over 18,000 ventilators that were distributed to various public as well as private sector hospitals, saving many, many lives as a result of our intervention. So the CSIR remains a very relevant entity, to drive industrial development, but also to support the state to deliver on its responsibility of providing services to the people of South Africa.
There's a lot that a CSIR is involved in, and it sounds like it's quite there's a lot of detail happening. Like in what we see is probably just like a fraction of what is actually happening.
Indeed. It's a tip of the iceberg.
It was a tip of the iceberg. And CEO, can you just give us an overview of who is at the CSIR? Who are the people that are actually coming up with these innovations and these solutions that are even tapped by American companies and are able to, boost South Africa's industrialization? Can you just give us a picture of the people?
It's a very good question, because, you appreciate the fact that we are able to do the things that we do at the CSIR because of the people that work here. Yeah. Not just today, but over the past 8 years. Scientists who've worked here before us, the leadership that has been here before us, I think they laid the foundation, for the work that we're able to do today. So the people are really at the heart of what the CSIR does. We employ just under 2,400 people in the CSIR. Of those, about 1,700, but just over 70% are what we call scientists, science, engineering, and technology specialists, SCT based. We refer to this as the SCT base. Just over 70% of the people that work at the CSIR are scientists, engineers, and technologists. If I look at the cohort of the set base, we're sitting at just over 70% black and 40% female. So we're very, very proud of the strides that we've made to to achieve transformation within the organization, both in terms of race, but also in terms of gender. I mean, for instance, the national average, or the national figure, not average, the national figure in terms of the percentage of females in science, engineering, and technology in South Africa sits at about 28%. So we're sitting at 40%, which is above the national figure. Yeah, exactly. But it is because of the deliberate effort and the interventions we've put in place to drive transformation in the organization. Our work covers about 12 sectors of the South African economy. We do work in defense and security, in mining, in manufacturing, in chemicals, in health, in advanced agriculture, in food, in ICT, in the built environment, in the natural environment, in energy, water, as well as in mobility. Okay. So we've got a very diverse pool of capabilities within the organization. Of course, we also have a very diverse skills base within the CSIR. So we employ mainly scientists, engineers, and technologists who have expertise in all of these areas of research and innovation that we're involved with within the CSIR.
It's quite a 2,004 employees. It's quite a big. And if you were to actually just give us some highlights in terms of the different, I don't know if I were to call it entities or like little pockets of areas that are here where these scientists work, what does that look like?
Okay, that's right. So if as I mentioned before, we cover about 12 sectors of the South African economy, So our work, covers all of those areas. So for instance, in agriculture, we do a lot of work in terms of, bioprocessing. Okay. We're very much involved in terms of supporting the development of the cannabis industry within South Africa. We're using advanced technologies such as artificial intelligence and data analytics to support the modernization of the agricultural sector within South Africa. We've developed a technology called a Precision Agriculture Information System that uses satellite data and data analytics to provide farmers of all scales, even small-scale farmers, about information that is relevant for their performance. So it provides information such as the conditions of the soil, as well as information about the crops that they are producing and the potential yield. It's very, very important information for farmers. Previously, you would have to take a sample and go and have it analyzed in a laboratory. But now we're able to provide that information, from remote sensing, satellite data, without having to have a physical intervention. You can imagine the time it takes to take the sample, you drive to a laboratory, it gets analyzed, and so forth. So it enables farmers to monitor almost in real time, the conditions within their farm. For instance, information about soil conditions is very important because then it will guide the farmer to say, how much fertilizer do I need to add? How much water do I need to apply in terms of irrigation? And therefore we are able to only focus on those areas that require whatever nutrient or mineral or water to be able to sustain the farm. Whereas previously, if you're applying fertilizer in a farm, you just apply it uniformly across. Yeah. But maybe some areas don't need as much as others. So now we are able to, of course, use whatever you have in a much more efficient manner, than before. It's just one example. If I look at our work in manufacturing, for instance, we've developed the largest 3D printer in the world, which is able to print metal.
Metal?
Yes, to print metal. We developed this to print titanium-based alloys, which can be used for instance, in aerospace. So we're working on trying to commercialize this with a partner. There's a company that we've been incubating now, which is making a smaller version of this laser system, and they'll be taking this to the market. So there are many, many examples, of cutting-edge research that we are doing within South Africa, in health as well. We've got some very exciting projects that we are doing there. One of the problems that our country has, not just South Africa, but most of the African countries, is the issue of adverse drug reactions. Where people take drugs, but the drugs that they take make them sick.
As in drugs, medicine, or?
Medicine. So medicines, of course. Not those kinds of drugs. medicines. A good point. No, not illicit drugs. So medicines, exactly, because they get side effects, But, as a country, we spend over 10 billion rands a year, by the way, treating the effects of medicines that are supposed to make us healthy.
Really?
Yes, one of the problems is that most of these medicines are developed in the West and in Europe. And, developed based on a different genetic makeup to that of the African population. They are never tested on, the African population. Only a very small fraction of drugs that are used in the world, are tested for compatibility with the African genetic makeup. That's why we are seeing a higher proportion of what's called adverse drug reactions, from Africans than from other types. And therefore, we're doing some very exciting work. Our colleagues have developed liver organoids, genetically modified. They make these in the laboratory, because the liver acts as a filter, in the body. And therefore, they are able to test different drugs, But these livers, the genetic makeup is representative of the African population, so that we can be able to say, well, if you bring this drug to South Africa, we are likely to have, these negative effects from its deployment. But it moves us a step forward in terms of what is called personalized medicine. Because now I can take your genetic makeup and screen, which drugs will not work for you as a person. You can see how far this is taking the country, So it's some very, very exciting work that we are doing here. We are collaborating with local academic hospitals in terms of development of this solution, which could have a significant impact, not just in terms of the cost saving associated with the treatment of adverse drug reactions, but also in terms of the quality of life, of the people who require these medicines. Of course, we want to use this to feed back to the pharmaceutical industry in terms of, developing different formulation that could work better for us. So there are many, many examples of very exciting work in energy. I can speak about the work that we are doing there as well, in the built environment. We recently launched what we called a transport safety laboratory, first of its kind, within South Africa and in Africa, in fact, to look at how can we improve safety on our roads, exactly. Looking at various factors, including human factors, and so forth.
No, I think I was at the launch of that.
Oh, really? Okay. Fantastic. So you know about that.
I've seen that, right? Yes, quite an exciting innovation that was showcased.
Indeed.
And just, just to look back at, some of the innovations that I have, I think you did mention about missiles back in the day. Is that something that those were like being inventions that were coming out of the CSIR? What else was coming out of the CSIR back in those days when it was just in the 40s, 50s, and maybe to 60s?
Yes. I think I've mentioned a few already. I spoke about the work that we did in terms of radar technology development. We continue to do that work today. Yes. So you can imagine we've built a depth of capability, over 40 years. In fact, one of the big projects we are doing now in radar technology is a project with a German partner. Okay. Radars are used in many areas, but one of the areas of application is in the Navy. So they're able to, it's a sensor, So we're developing a very advanced radar system, which is not mechanical at all. It's called a phased array radar. And this company that we're working with in Germany already has orders of this system from the UK Navy, for that matter. So we've got a South African invention, coming out of the CSIR. We are commercializing it with a German company. In one of our first clients, is the UK Navy. We are really punching way above our weight, as a country, but also as a CSR. But it's an indication of the depth of capability that exists within, an institution like the CSR, but also the need to invest in capability development, for a long period of time. You don't achieve this kind of success overnight. It takes a lot of time.
And it must be something that, you as, the head of this organization, you're something to be proud of because
it gives one a very strong sense of pride,
yeah.
As the head of the institution, but also as a South African.
Yes.
In terms of the contribution that we are making. I think one feels very privileged to be, leading an institution of the caliber of the CSIR, with its history, but also with the people that work here.
Yeah.
One of our values is that we've got 4 values in the CSIR: excellence, people-centered. So we believe in people. Exactly, integrity as well as collaboration. So we strive for excellence in everything that we do within the organization.
Oh, it's all the best for the next 80 years again.
Yeah.
But see, or just maybe as we wrap up, we know we've seen how the advancements in technology, and it's something that I think you also touched on AI and data analytics from That's
correct.
So how does incorporating the advancements improve what the CSIR, or better what the CSIR has already, the innovations that have already come out of the institution?
No, definitely. I think the technology that we see emerging, like artificial intelligence, act as an enabler for us to be able to do more, of the thing that we do in a much more efficient manner, and to accelerate the progress that we're able to achieve as an organization in terms of the work that we do. So those technologies will definitely have an impact on the work that we do here at the CSIR. And as I mentioned, we're already using some of them, in terms of the work that we are doing. But our view is that, there's a lot more that we need to do there. We need to invest in developing more capabilities around the use of these technologies, but also in investing in the infrastructure that we require, to tap into the potential that technologies like AI, for instance, bring, not just in terms of the research that we do, but also in terms of supporting our business, in the support functions of the business, in finance and HR and so forth. And how can we use these tools, to improve what we are doing, to reduce the cost of doing business, to improve efficiencies, and to improve performance.
CEO, just as we wrap up, in terms of, I did mention what we can't see into the future. But what is the maybe short term, we can't say the next 80 years, but what is the next 3 to 5 years for the CSIR look like?
Well, we started on a journey, as I said, 7 years ago, to create a balance in terms of our contribution to industrial development, as well as our ability to support the creation of a capable state. We'll continue on that journey. Our strategy remains, creating this balance. I don't know if I mentioned already that, we've grown our private sector business by over 40% in the past 7 years. And we are going to continue, to grow that part of the business. For us, it's very important that we diversify our income streams, creating a good balance between public sector income, private sector income, as well as international income. Yeah. The areas of focus that we are pursuing are very relevant for the South African economy. And we'll continue to drive those, that I mentioned earlier, the work that we do across the 12 sectors of the South African economy. We see ourselves contributing towards the growth of the South African economy, sustainable growth, as well as the growth of the CSIR. That's not going to change, We see ourselves contributing towards improving the sustainability and performance of South African industry through the technology that we develop and transfer. Over the past 7 years, for instance, we supported over 700 small and medium enterprises, and we've signed over 200 joint technology development agreements with the industry. And we've localized over 100 technologies within South Africa and licensed over 55 technologies, to show how we are contributing towards improving the sustainability and performance of South African industry. We will continue to contribute towards supporting the creation of a capable state through the work that we do with government, but also to commercialize the IP coming out of the CSR. 2 years ago, we created a company called CSR Secured with sole purpose of driving the commercialization of IP coming out of the CSR. And we continue to grow that part of our business, to create impact, in a very direct and visible way through the commercialization of our IP. So those are going to continue to be the areas of focus, for the CSR going forward.
And I wish you the best with that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time, CEO. That was the CEO of the CSIR, that is Dr. Thulani Chamin.